Yes, Daktari.
Yeah, I want to add something. What should be done to make the informal sector benefit from technology? There is something which has not been spoken by my fellow members. We need formalization.
What is formalization?
Okay.
What is formalization? In a
Let's
nutshell,
wait.
not in a nutshell, what is
Let's wait
formalization?
before finish. We need formalization. No way one can develop while operating in the shadow. And when we say formalization, some people use it to confuse that formalization means taxation. No, formalization is more than that. They need education, need to be recognized, need to have a statistic and database, need to be known starting from the village level, ward, municipal, regional, and nationwide. For example, how can a municipal council plan for the development of the informal workers while their statistics are not now? An example is Johannesburg. Johannesburg City was trying to empower the informal sector over there for many years, more than 30 years. And then they found that nothing is being achieved because they don't know the statistics. Therefore, they stopped everything and they conduct a special census for the informal workers in Johannesburg. Thereafter, now the planning are coming. Therefore, what I wanted to add, we need formalization from the bottom level so that you can plan for them. How can you plan for the people who are not known in their numbers? Thank you.
On respond on that, myself, I need to differ with most of the people and the academicians regarding of people are talking of formalization, want to be formal. But to me, it is not necessary. We don't need now the formal. What we need is to transform. Because when formalize, it means that the end product.
Transform and adapt.
You need to transform. Because when you transform them, for example, you transform, what are you going to do for the transformation? First one is recognition. You need to recognize them. And then secondly, accessibility in terms of decent working business space, access to finance, access to social protection, access to technology, access to market of their goods and services, so that at the end, it will be easier, even skills, at the end, it will be easier to themselves to formalize. That will be the end product of this. So now we are jumping, talking of formalization and not to transform. At the end, people, they go back again to informal. So instead of formalizing, we are deformalizing.
So the key word there is transforming.
Transforming.
Can I add something?
Yes.
I just want to react on what you have said here when he mentioned the word government. We have somebody who has been mandated to foresee some operations. That's what we call the government. And this person is mandated or given opportunity to make sure that things are done in an organized manner. So this person must be somebody who focused. So when we talk about the government, we are not running away from the administration. We are a part of it because we are the people who have voted them in. So they are there to make sure that they use the right strategies to build us so that we can come to a certain level. He has talked of work sites, which is so much important. Some people are working at their bedsides. Few. But right now, the population in East Africa, it is mixed up. We have the ancient, those who are not educated, and those who are educated. In Juakali sector or informal sector, when I joined in 1989, nobody could accept to associate with the informal sector by then, which means many of them were totally illiterate. You see? And such people, they are still there. Only few have come to join, which means to adapt the new technology with the next generation. To me, I see it is so hard. So until such a time, I concur with what Mwalimu said, that education is key. And we must start from primary level if we want to get another generation there, that will adapt to the whole system to give us the right results that we need as a nation. So from there, as we continue, again, we have so many people who are not educated, but talent, they are so talented. What they make is so good. We must also see where they can also be fixed in vocational training centers so that they can be upgraded. So this is the role of the government that need to do this.
Akinyi, the whole concept of formalization, and you have dealt with this wonderful group of producers. Is it a big issue?
So no, I'm going to validate a couple of things. The first has to do with quality of work. So when we talk about the quality of work not being at par, we don't mean that informal sector workers are producing bad work. The quality of inputs is what's needed to, number one, accelerate, but also machinery, equipment. When we're talking about productivity, and as our friend was saying, your shoes are the same, but probably his members can't make as many shoes as these other shoes that are being sold. Yeah, so when we talk about quality of work, it's not that the skill sets are not there. It's saying that the raw materials usually are not up to par. If we're saying that we're working on a global stage, which is the goal of digitization, but also the ability to produce and to produce at scale.
How can you? We are acting the way we used to do in 1960. This is 2019, and yet we expect to get different outputs. How is that possible? Let's hear from our guest here.
Maybe I don't know whether I know that in history, because I'm also an historian. Here in Kenya, we did Form 6 and 5, and we're dealing with that from Europe to here. We have a bit of history. And from history and politics, there are two things I want to add there before I answer it. This question of democracy and these people who are called the ones who don't want to change are called what? It's running out of moment. Call them what? People don't want change.
It's a Latin term, I'm forgetting.
It's a term?
Yeah.
Conservatives.
Yeah.
In economy, the same applies. And I don't know why we are running away from that point that I'm trying to build. Yakwamba, conservatives, they are people who have things today, like here in Kibera, in Kenya. We have some of my cousins who are making these bones, and they are sold in Germany. They have remained doing that thing the way they know it, with the skills that they, I don't know, got from there, from the creativity and passion that they have. It is selling, and the market out there is looking for that. The only problem that one of my sister-in-law got there is that where to sell, their stalls are a bit expensive. But the product that is coming from Kibera, from our own bones, is really selling out there, and people are looking for it. So when we are saying, when we don't want to look at, we informally say in Africa, that we don't want to maintain the local content, which after some time you find that the local content, the way it was, has been lost. So we think that the other one is best than what originally someone had adapted and created. I'm missing the link here.
My point is...
No, I'm coming to that.
Before you come to your... what are you going to... We are in a global village.
Yes.
And I asked our colleagues here, what is going to be the contribution of this region in this digital economy? We are going there as EA, so that if I log on to that digital economy, I am able to see Uganda, I'm able to see Kenya, I'm able to see Tanzania, I'm able to see Burundi, I'm able to see Rwanda.
It is what is going to put us up there. We have said, I think when I left here, I said, digitalization is the way to go. But we are talking about products. There are two areas of production. The machines was talking about to upgrade what we are doing, but that upgrading is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't mean that the machines from outside make something qualitative than what originally someone who is creative and talented can produce. That we have seen. Right now we have exhibition in Rwanda, and this expo from China, and we have sent our people there. What has been locally made here is selling there, And I don't know whether you have the papers today. And it's doing well. So what we must mix is the two things. That let's not misunderstand the concept of digitalization and mass production as equal to talents and good work that someone has, God has given that person. That's what I'm trying to. For us to compete in the same in terms of production, mass production, is what we need machines for. But while we are doing that, we must make sure that the local content is maintained. Because if we reproduce what the other person is reproducing, then the question of market and competition, we lose it somewhere. And that's why we are trying also to take care of our local informal sectors, that whatever they are doing is good, but we only need to make sure how do they sell them, how do we market them, how do we also upgrade. But the local content, whatever design they have, should be maintained according to me. Because even the West, because even what you are talking here about what digitalization is from the West. But even them, they are coming back here looking for good things here. And our people must realize early enough that soon they shall be looking for us. And Africans, for sure, let me use that word, we need also to maintain certain things so that tomorrow we could find that we are the ones that are supplying certain things that are not found globally. But the question that we need all to revolutionize, even what we have and our thinking is wrong. That's what I'm trying to say, because I've seen it, that another mama from home there is making some basket, that you cannot get that skill from anybody else. And with those kids, they are dying with them. If we don't maintain them in the market today, we revolutionize everything and everything looks alike. I don't know what we are trying to, we are engaging there. Me, I want to think about leakages, the way the market, this thing is helping us in that. Today, I've just run for our circle. It is helping us. Right now, we are doing pay bill through it, and we are not using, we are trying to tell our people, let us not handle cash because of corruption. That one, I agree with the digitalization, and it is helping a lot, banking system and all that. But when it comes to creativity, when it comes to product, well, let us be very sure that we are not selling out what we have. So later on, the generation that is coming may not even have what we had that we can sell in the market, so that we are competitive.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, in addition to that, what we need, ethics of business. Mm-hmm. That is, we have a major problem of the business. Ethics, we are not. And then secondly, we are selfish. Kenyans are selfish, Tanzanians are selfish, Ugandans are selfish, and now we are competing to the same market. Why do we become selfish? That's it. We need also to look ourselves, ethics of the business, and let us remove selfishness.
The area that maybe I sit there is the question of, I don't want to bash our government, but just recently we met at the hotel is what? The president was giving some money that we are pushed for the micro and small enterprise fund, for example. But when it is given, Safari Park, that's just the other day, when it is given out, it's given to banks. And what do banks do to the informal sector? They add an interest on what and we have always talked about, and we have told the government that give us the money through our circles, so that the interest rate remains affordable for us. But what do they do even now? They give it to banks, and then leave us to deal with the banks there. When we are dealing with the banks, we cannot access this credit. It is given to us, it gets back to the government, or to wherever it is, and we cannot improve ways of doing business because someone, somewhere, you don't know what interest they have. You tell them we have circles, use our circles, begin with them, but they take it to the banks. If you take it to the banks, informal sector will not go in there.
Okay. Okay, thank you. But Message, you are parting short on the issue of digitalization. Yes, because remember, we have quite a lot of products in this region that I said, like these women who make gonja, soon an Indian will set up a factory in Mukono or Kayunga, and then it will be sold in the European Union, not as a Ugandan product, but as someone's product. What should we do? Digital market, digitalization. You are. What in charge?
Thank you. I think here we are mixing things. Because, you know, when it comes to competition, it depends on the level of competition.
Yes.
Now, this foreign investor whom you're referring to come and set a factory in Mukono
And make it his.
and make it his.
Gonja is.
Yes. Now, that is going to be different from the digitalization we're going to talk of, because you see we are crying of these credit facilities, and now this is someone who is going to come with enough capacity,
Yes.
with enough financial muscle. Okay, I think we may not compete on that level, but what we can do in the ESC, before we even look at this other foreign competitor, what I can hear out is this person is making gonja in Kampala. So why, before someone from USA knows about the gonja and someone in Nairobi here doesn't know, and it is the ESC,
Yes.
that is what we need to first streamline now.
Yes.
You get my point?
Yes.
And the other discussant was talking about formalization. I think in the informal sector, when we talk of formalization, we don't simply mean going to school to learn this or that. To me, formalization may only mean getting a bit more organized, for example. Now, within the informal sector, quite many are not learned. But today, more than 60% of informal sector players are actually learned people.
Yeah.
You get my point? So when we talk of formalization and we talk of going back to school, I differ from that. But the challenge is that even those who are learned and they're in the informal sector, they have failed to make us organize the sector. And so that's why we are still looking as if we are still not formalized.
Why is it still stuck there that they have not made it from?
We were discussing some of those issues. They don't want to be exposed, yeah? Because when we were discussing with James about the data, I'll testify to this. When we come to the informal sector, we have the data. I'll give you an example in Kampala. When you go to URA, someone will come to Kasita, Uganda, and openly tell me how much he earns, how much he imports, how much he incurs, to me as now an association, as a business leader. But he will not give this information to URA. So they feel insecure. That's why even them, they are failing to organize us.
James. Where?
I don't want her to tweet what I'm going to say. Is Ivy around? Not tweet. No, don't tweet this one. There's a lot of fear that a lot of what we are celebrating as informal, what you call the repetitive tasks, the machines are going to take over, right? Mm-hmm. Because now machines are being taught how to learn,
Talk.
and self-teach themselves, meaning they are going to be intelligent. So when you're talking about the shoes made by your members, the machines will be able to do this in millions and throw them out to the market, right? So when you're talking about the informal sector, I'd like the panel to help us reflect on this point, that we know a lot of what is done in the informal sector is repetitive. And we know that now what our good young scientists are doing is to say if something is repetitive, it's easy to learn about it and quickly have a machine take over. What can we do to prepare our informal sector to either be part of those who will own the machines or be able to compete with the machine? That's one point. I'd like if the panel can help us to reflect on this, because we cannot just keep thinking the world will be the same when we can see clearly that digitalization is a new ocean. And with oceans, they come changes, right? The second aspect why I insisted that we should not tweet. Esperance just gave a presentation that shows that the clients that come to us in the informal sector are developing a test of some very specific requirements, right? She gave us a list of them. But just to summarize, one of them is they want tasks, products delivered on the shortest time possible, right? What some big writers are calling on demand, right? Meaning when somebody wants the shoe, it's already there. Even before they think about it, you should be delivering your Masai shuka, right? And already machines out there, and I visited some research facility where over 4,000 young people are researching on the customer experience. 4,000, right? On one customer, just to make sure that when the product is delivered, this customer will never go to another shop. Yet we are talking about informality, where your customer base is your members. Others are preparing for a massive customer base. Yeah? The example you're giving in the morning of, and is it you who was talking about the watch positioned somewhere so that what they see is the face, not the watch? It's not by accident. It's because people are researching, and they know what makes the brain active and happy. So they know this kind of image excites certain part of the body, and then it makes you make a decision, correct? So it's no longer purchasing just for need, but somebody's playing with your psychology. So in that second part, what advice can we give our informal sector players to also realize that that's the new marketplace where there's a lot of psychological games, if I may say, that are being played. That's why people buy, and I think he has left when you are asking him about quality. They buy something thinking it's quality, but it's not quality. It's all because there's a lot of research on thought processes and decision making that now literally somebody's taking over your thought process as a customer. What you think you decide, you're not even deciding. The producer decides for you. Take my cup, and you think you're deciding. But the informal sector is operating in the old paradigm, that the customer comes, checks this, likes it, and goes away with it. The new paradigm, the producer literally decides for the customer, take this, it's good for you. 2 points, thank you.
Yeah, we started with Gaston. Man competing with the machines. What should we do? I'm going back to the analogy of the shoe that you have just given. Is it a war we will win, or we must transform?
Well, what we did, and now what we are doing, that because we did an analysis to know what they are missing, what kind of machine is needed, and then we found that a lot of machine is needed, and also we provide them with the first loan, soft loan, of 28 million Tanzanian shillings. They get machines for cutting, oven, grinding, and so forth, so that they will have to make a good quality of shoes. And then secondly, we are going to provide a skills, a training, especially on quality checker and designing. So we are on the pipeline now to do that, so that when you produce the shoes, we need to have a quality, and also the question of branding. We'll have to do that, because in our office we have somebody, an IT personnel who will have to design. What we can do is that to design with their logo and to brand their logo, to facilitate them for the registration at the Business and Registration Authority, so that agency, so that themselves they have the brand name and they have the quality to check, so that when somebody is producing a shoes, the member of the, so they have the similar quality.
Fred, innovation and customer satisfaction. And remember, we are talking about Kenya. We are estimated to be around 47 million. They recently released statistics. and 47. And then add on Tanzanians are 57, isn't it? And then Uganda, I'm not sure. 31. 41. That's over 100 million already. And now you are making only 2 or 5 shoes in a day. Innovation and customer satisfaction.
I think this is where the issue of machinery is coming in, to give us muscle to produce in mass. That is very key. Because when we are using the machine, the reason why people are going on the western side, what these people make locally with the analog technology, 2 to 3 pairs. If you go to the 4th one, they look different. So machinery will bring standardization into place, so that what is made in Germany is like what is made in Kenya.
So you are saying that we should embrace
change. That is mandatory. Nobody is opposing.
Uganda, our guest from Uganda, what do you have to say?
I just want to ask my brother, Abel.
Abel. Don't fight on the plane.
In Uganda, no, we are not fighting.
Don't fight on the plane back to Uganda.
In Uganda, most especially the area, his area of jurisdiction, that is the city. We, the informal sector has got a lot of money. That is true. And foreigners, most especially the Chinese, have discovered that. And they've also started making what you are talking about, the gonja.
Yes.
So, they are trying to compete with these other former traders or business people. What has he done as the CEO of Kasita to ensure that he stops such an act? Because these are supposed to come in as investors or formal traders, but they have also turned into informal.
Abel, are they informal? If they come and set up a factory that will supply gonja in East Africa, would you consider them informal? And what are you doing to ensure that that is not stolen from your people who are producing this product? Or you say, let's pray, God will help us. Eh?
Okay. In the first case, I would want to believe that this challenge is not only in Kampala, because
the whole of our region.
Yes, it's a regional challenge.
Gonja is just an example.
Oh yeah, it's just an example. Now, what I have to bring to your attention, or the attention of the audience, is that there are some things where we don't need individual efforts, but rather collaboratory efforts. Because, if I may also ask, whom do you think regulates these foreign investors? One, because we've been at the forefront of fighting them actually, as private sector. But you're going to reach at a guy who has a permit. He's been allowed in the country as an investor. And the regulator has not actually made due diligence to find out, does he possess the investment threshold to operate in the country? Now, you go to a certain slum where this Chinese has actually gone, you find him being issued with a trading license by a regulator. You get the point? So, this cannot be fought by maybe Kasita or just a single association.
But you're a powerful association.
Yes, we are. That's why we are trying to advocate and become. We actually the mouthpiece, because others cannot even bring this out. Then also, Doctor, on the machinery, I think I would want to concur with my other speaker. The only solution is to adapt to change. Otherwise, we no longer have the song of market access. No. We have the markets. But right now is how to satisfy the markets. So if our local manufacturers are producing these shoes, yes, we need to support them. But look at the market. We are just talking about the ESC. He has just counted 100 million people.
Over.
And over. And for God's sake, even if we are to really promote these traditional systems and we lose out on the markets, then technology has got to
Losing out on the
reverse.
market, Professor.
I wanted to change the narrative a little bit and picking up on some of the themes that have happened in terms of informal being a pejorative term. Reason being narrative is identity, so when we use that word, it creates our identity. So we could think about cottage industries as a term to replace informal industry. And cottage industry has the aspiration, at least, to become, it's sort of inherent, it's more on the craft skills, craft specialty, sometimes luxury, but a lot of what has been mentioned, customized goods and services. So looking at that, then what are our indigenous standards for cottage industries, right? You were talking about people who have been producing a boat for centuries with the same technique. In manufacturing, that's an industry standard, right? If I go to that group, they will tell me, don't pick that wood. Use this one. That's an industry standard. So how can we, instead of just calling it indigenous knowledge, which kind of, I don't know why, but you know, sometimes reality is destiny. When you say indigenous knowledge, people think that you're doing something that will never be of value in a commercial setting. If we say it's a legacy standard, if we say it is a historical craft, how do we do research in a way that builds a narrative for the creation of cottage industries?
Okay, thank you, Prof. As we wind up, we start with the Gaston. Respond to what Prof has said as we wind up so that you can go to our last session.
Yeah, I think that is really a very good suggestion before. And, but we have also to look with culture and traditions, etc. And, you know, basically, even myself, when I was, I have a meeting with the local government authority. And one of the issues and question, what they asked me, why do you prefer to call yourself as informal sector? So the name is also irritating them. And but myself, I responding to them that even ourselves, we are trying to think on how can we change your name local government, because you are practicing totally local. Because when you want to make a decision, it take you a month, 2 months, 6 months, unnecessarily. So there is a need also to make changes of the name. But in terms of the informal sector, yeah, let us see and how can we do. But the bigger issues is maybe we need also to have a policy to the informal sector. Because to have a policy, it doesn't mean that you want the informal sector to prosper or to continue. No, you will have to come up with a strategy, maybe even a demarcation. So when you reach at a certain level, automatically you transform yourself from the informal to the formal, and then you will have to provide in some sort of incentive, so that if you are in informal, you are doing business in informal, this is your incentive. But if you move to the second, that is your incentive. But nowadays, even our small companies, they are practicing informal. Despite themselves, they have been registered, they have been the registration certificate, they are paying taxes, but when it comes to the operation, they are operating totally informal.
Fred.
Let me summarize by saying this. Mr. John from America wrote a book, and in that book, there is a quote that says, "A ship in harbor is very safe, but that is not what ships are made for. Ships are made to explore the ocean." And Mandela said this, "For you to explore the ocean, you must be at the shore." Are you together? Fidel Castro of Cuba said, revolution is not. Revolution is a battle. Revolution is not a bed of roses. Revolution is a battle between the past and the future. So, in this, I want us to apply 6P principle. Proper prior planning prevents poor performance. For us to do well and remain focused, people who can be recognized, we must use 6P principle. And I want to, even though nowadays we mixed it up, another professor said, even though young, energetic people with money who can buy a fishing net and a boat, they still have to work under the supervision of the old fishermen. This is a clear indication of the fact that modern and traditional are not virtually exclusive. End of quote. That's what the man said. So, let us all put our heads together as we embrace the change.
Okay.
It must be. A change must be there because what we are making is not about our tradition. We are talking about the market that we want to venture into, where so many people are. And we want to compete with them, and also, if possible, we outplay them.
Okay.
So,
Akinyi, how do we make the digital world work for our informal sector? Though I don't want to use that term, informal.
That's okay. I'm going to circle back on a couple of things that have been mentioned.
Briefly?
Yes, very briefly. So in terms of thinking about craftsmanship, let's get back to craftsmanship, whether that's of shoes, whether that's of furniture. These are skill sets that can't be outsourced when we talk about the very technical of them. When we talk about the services that people crave, as much as AI is here, machine learning is here, there's certain services that are going to require that human element. When you go to Kenyatta Market to get your hair braided, you want to be able to speak to somebody. When the informal sector, let me just call it that, the informal sector requires or demands for this ability to be adaptable, but also customers and consumers crave that ability to change. And that's something that's going to be very difficult to do through automation. And again, technology at the end of the day is the tool to be able to do that, especially when we're thinking about informal sector workers, whatever we choose to call them. It's bringing dignity to that profession.
Decency.
Yes.
In their work.
Exactly, in their wages, in their work, in their access to social security services and everything of that nature. With platforms like Link, that's exactly what we're trying to do. We don't call our informal sector workers. We call them pros, which is short for professionals, because they are professionals. They have these skill sets. And so even when we're thinking about empowering people in the sector, it comes, number one, from wording, whether that's informal, changing the informal sector to something else, making sure that we're giving dignity to these workers. But even when we think about growth in this sector, it's really taking stock of, yes, we do have our indigenous traits or skills. How can we upskill this or sell this to an international market? Because just because you like Maasai beads doesn't mean the global market likes Maasai beads, but there's something about Maasai beads that the global market wants. So it's really understanding, number one, getting to the grassroots and understanding how are these crafts actually done, because I think that's being lost. A lot of people don't have these skills or don't have the knowledge of how this craftsmanship is done, but also making sure that we capture that knowledge and we're able to adapt it to a global market.
Yes, Abel, on Monday when you go to Owino Market or Wandegea, are you going to be an ambassador for digitalization? What will you tell your members?
I'm actually surprised that you know the entire market of Uganda.
But I told you I'm Maimuko, or you didn't hear me call Uganda?
No, I didn't. I would have. Yeah. Sorry. Wow, I'm glad I'm seated to your Muko. Okay. Do they understand Muko?
Yeah, they'll understand.
They will.
Yes.
Muko means Aninilo. Okay. I think I will not simply become an ambassador of digitalization on Monday because I already embraced it. And my mindset is already positive towards it. And also to sum up, I think we first need to change our mind from calling ourselves informal, because this is what has actually made us lag behind. I can also borrow what Doctor just mentioned. If we are cottage industries, you see, now that term is very different. When you're in a cottage industry, the way you operate, the way you deliver, the processes that you adapt, even this change that we are feeling actually won't affect you. So I would like to request and advocate that we change our mindset from being informal, we go cottage-wise, and then we'll be able to apply this digitalization.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's appreciate our 4 panelists, please.